Okay. Welcome everyone. We're back with the Virtual DuPSUG. We used to do this in the 2020s. Now we came back with it. The idea is we look for interesting speakers that can't make it in person to DuPSUG, and we'll give them a platform to chat for an hour, 2 hours. Doug promised he would go for at least 3 hours today, so let's keep him to that. For the people in Holland, we have an in-person one coming up in 15 days from now. So we have also relaunched our website, so dupsug.com actually works again, and we even enabled HTTPS, so we're really in 2025 now. With no further ado, I'd like to hand it over to you, Doug.
Awesome. Well, hello everybody, welcome. My name is Doug Finke, and for the folks who don't know me, real quick, I'm a 16-time Microsoft MVP. I wrote a book 100 years ago called PowerShell for Developers. I organized the New York City Meetup, which I just renamed to Agentic AI. If you want to catch up with me, stay connected. I'm on the X platform. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel where I post I do videos. Where did I go? I post YouTube videos on all different kinds of tech, mostly AI and PowerShell. Let me just see if I can bring that up. Actually, I don't see the chat, but that's okay.
Yeah, so what I'll do is, if you're okay with it, if there's questions in the chat, then I'll just forward them to you, or we can save them for the end, whatever you prefer.
You can interrupt me. It's all fine. Or you can save it, whichever works the best. So like in the last, I guess what, a couple of weeks ago, I posted something. I built I vibe coded a desktop Excel Copilot, and I did it all in Python. So I put up a video of just a result of that. But I have a bunch of other ones, and then when I have folks like Yap on, we talk about whatever PowerShell AI. I record those. So I don't know if you know, where is this thing? My stuff's all out of order. Good sign. So if you go to the New York City PowerShell Meetup, next week I'm going to do a live stream for an hour. I'm calling it the Agent Factory, building AI teams from the CLI. I think it should be fun. We're going to talk about, you'll see how to build workers, planners, workers, and reviewer loops, creating agents without complex frameworks. We're going to see a bunch of that today, and I'll leverage that next week as well. We'll talk about how reflection improves readability or reliability, and then patterns for scaling from a single script to an AI team. All doable in PowerShell without any complex frameworks. If you want to use a complex framework, there might be some things that you like about it that you want to use it for. Perfectly fine. But if not, you don't have to. Cool. So I think I have one more slide for later on. Just something to keep a note of. I don't know how many people here. I usually ask at this point how many people prompted AI today. Type of 1 in the chat. Somebody raised their hand. Oh, you did. Excellent. We got 1. Yeah. I'm sure 10 did. All right. 3 people. Matrix, how are you? All right. 3, 4 people did some. Now, I'm sure, hopefully, hey, Robert Prust is on. Excellent. So I hope those prompts that you did today wasn't something like, what wine should I have with my meatloaf? I don't know if that joke translates, but I see a lot of people ask about what wine they should have with their dinner tonight. I don't kind of count that as doing AI. But some of the principles, I don't want to cover this too hard. Context, model, and prompt. You probably heard about context away. By the way, Doug, I follow your posts, and I'm a big fan. Hey, thank you. I can only pronounce names like Bob and Bill. So thank you for that. So context, model, prompt. If you keep those things in mind, I'm not really going to go into show. I'll talk about it a little bit as we go through this, but that's really the fundamentals of AI. Context is like, what do I give it so it knows what to do? How do I prompt it based on that? And then what model you choose is important. Now, people go, well, what model should I use? My answer is use the model the best model you have access to, right? That's within your budget. If you have something, if you can do it at work, great. If you're doing it at home, then, Again, choose the best model you have access to, and then go from there. So if you're not getting the results that you want, you can tweak the context, give it more stuff. You can tweak your prompt, be more specific, ask for different kinds of details, or you can change your model to something else that is more effective. When you can triangulate all three of those, you hit the bullseye and you're good. And it doesn't matter whether you're working in M365 or Visual Studio Code or in Cursor or Windsurf, or you're working, can you hear that horn in the back?
Nope.
Because they're building a building. Excellent. So so it doesn't matter which platform you're working with. If you can triangulate these three things, that's going to make your experience with AI much better. You're going to get much better results. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're doing it in an IDE or at the command line or in some other type of UX that one of the big vendors are presenting. So let's do some demos. So if you want to play along, basically this is what you need. Start with doing I'm going to be using PSAI. That's a module I wrote back in 2022. And I've been keeping up with what OpenAI's, I ported the Python SDK to PowerShell, and I've been adding on as they have. I have not ported over the response API that they released in the last several months. I'm still trying to figure out what they're going to do with that. It is a core aspect of what they're doing, but I haven't ported it. Next, what you want to do is you want to head over to the API keys, and you want to get yourself a key. When you're in PowerShell, if you set this OpenAI key, this environment variable, with that key that you get, you'll be good to go. When you get the API key, they're going to ask for a credit card. Drop $2 or $3 on it. I think maybe the minimum is $5. If you're going to only use this every once in a while, that $5 will last you over a year. As we say, intelligence is too cheap to meter, and it's getting less expensive as we go. So do those things, install the module, get your key, set it up, you're good to go. I also have something called PSAISuite, which is I support 15 different providers. So for example, I support Open Router, and they support over 300 different models. So you can get at all of that with PowerShell at the command line. I publish that when those changes happen, and I usually do it on LinkedIn a lot. So for example, I can say I have a function called get open router. And let's say I have a function or a flag or a parameter called last week's. So these are the different models that have been published within the last week. In fact, that's today, the 15th, Anthropic just dropped Claude Haiku 4.5. We're not going to see this today too much, maybe next week when I do that. But you can then choose a model. If you hit Control Space for tab completion, these are the ones that have open catalogs of what models they have. So if I go to Open Router, and I can say something like Anthropic, these are all, hit Control Space again, you can get a list of all of the Anthropic models supported on Open Router, which is one of the fastest inference engines out there that support these models. And if I want to take Haiku, and then I can say, what is the capital of France? Because we'll see a lot of that today. There you go. So I just interacted from the command line with a model. And just to see that from a different angle, let's say I can use the same exact one, but now go to Open Router, and I'm going to go for OpenAI. They have their models up there as well. Let's go with, I don't want to go with Pro because that's a little slower. Let's go with 4.1. What is of France? So no wonder why I gave me that nonsense. Got to learn how to type. So there you go. It's like, what are you talking about? What is the capital? So now you just saw that I was able to switch between an Anthropic model and an OpenAI model in the same line of code, just changing the string of what model I want to deal with. I often use this to do evaluations. Hey, Jan. So I usually use this for doing inference checking. So I might take the same exact prompt, like give me a Fibonacci sequence. PowerShell. Let's try. I think we're going 3 hours today, dude. PowerShell.
Hey, Doug, could you click the hide button on the meet.google? Thank you.
Yes. Thanks. PowerShell fib, fn, not recurse. So if I sent you an email or a DM and I left that in, I put that into the message, would you know what to do? If somebody sent that to me, we would probably have a back and forth, like, what are you talking about? Are you drinking early today? So anyway, so I just asked GPT-4.1 for a Fibonacci function in PowerShell and don't use recursion. And, I know that, so doing a loop is not recursion, and we're good to go. Again, I can use this for evaluations, and I can even come up and I happen to know that there's XAI, which is, Grok. What do I call it? It's probably X. Yeah. So I can do Grok 4. So this is Grok 4 fast. So now I've just switched between three models. Capital of France, that's fine. At the command line, I just switched between three models. I could have done this in a script, which I often do, where I will take something like this. Did I do the whole thing? And now I can ask for a PowerShell function and see how Grok sets it up. I can see how OpenAI sets it up. I can see how Anthropic sets it up. And I'll run this for example, across multiple providers and models, and then I'll compare the output and say, which one do I like best? Which one's getting close? Or I just do it for my own, so I can see how these different models are progressing. So it's kind of cool because I think Grok actually came back with comment-based help and even gave an example, whereas the other ones did not. So it depends on what you want to do. The other thing I don't like about it is it comes down here in the bottom and shows me how to use it. That's not useful if I want to just take this and save it in a file and use it later. But with simple prompting, I can say just the code, don't do any explanations. These are called fence blocks, something that's common when you put it in Markdown up into GitHub. You can say no fence blocks, so you can just get the raw code. And of course, we'll just do one more. If I don't want it in PowerShell, I can say Rust. And now I'm learning how to do Rust. I hate Rust. I'm not good at it. I'm better at Python and Go and TypeScript. So there you go. That's how you do a Fibonacci function that's not recursive in Rust. I use this all the time across many different things, not even just programming. And I get to say, well, let me see what the models have to do. Cool. So what are we going to talk about? And we're not going to talk about this kind of stuff today, but what you're seeing here, which is back to the principles, it's all about, here's context, happens to be the context and the prompt are the same in this case, and here's the model. If I wanted to, I should have saved this for later, but I'm not going to. So let's, I'm going to cat out this. We're going to talk about this in a minute. Here's a function, global weather, it has a bunch of parameters, whatnot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cat that, and I'm going to cat it into invoke completion, takes that, is pipeline ready, and I can say review code. So what happens is the weather agent PS1, that program, that text gets piped into invoke chat completion, and then I append that piped in data to the prompt review code. So now we're seeing context and we're seeing prompting in one play. Here's our model, and what it's going to do is going to review this set of code up here. And then I can even put review code / suggestions. So not only would it review, but I could also have it make suggestions about the code. And in this case, I'm using PowerShell, but this could be any code that I'd like. It could be an HTML page. It could be React code. It's going to take a little longer because Grok 4 is a little slower. And I wasn't specific. I didn't say it was PowerShell, so it's going to figure out that it is PowerShell as it does the reviews. And of course, because I'm doing a demo, the demo gods may not be behind me today. This usually works much faster. I should have gone with OpenAI. There it is. So I read that code, and here's the code review that it's set up. Okay, and it gave me the strengths and a whole bunch of other good stuff. I think it might actually, that's cute. Performance dependencies, I like that. Framework assumptions, like that. General recommendations, best practices, potential enhancements. So that all came out within, so we just saw several demos how fast it is to do interactions with AI. And you can do this at any level that you're comfortable with. You want to go deep, you don't want to go deep. But that's what I'd use. It's one of the reasons I ported everything. I ported as much as I could from the SDKs from Python because I wanted to do it where I live. I also think that PowerShell, are there any Python coders on here? So don't throw things at me. I also think that, oh, you are, figures Yop is on the line. So I think PowerShell is less ceremony than Python, meaning that there's more essence in PowerShell. With this one-liner, it'd be very complicated to get that to work with standard in and make it work easily inside of Python. Also, as with any other shell, I have now, since I brought it in, all this stuff into PowerShell, I can make it light up and do a whole bunch of things. I've done these kind of analyses across different PS1s or C# files and whatnot, and then I dump it through my export Excel type stuff in my Excel module, so I can see different sheets and I can compare what I'm doing inside of Excel and then share that with colleagues and whatnot. And that is just that's just one idea of what you can attempt to try to do here. Cool. Let's get on with what we wanted to talk about today. Sorry about the diversion. Cool. So we got what we needed. And today we're going to talk about something called New Agent. That's built into, I built that into PSAI. Now, just want to say, I do sit home on the weekends and at night, and I start sitting, hey, what can I come up with? What can I build? What looks interesting? But it is based in, my ideas are definitely based in and rooted in what did OpenAI do in 2022, and followed what they did, followed what Google did, followed what Anthropic came out with. And then as agents came online and people started talking about it, I follow people like Andrew Ng, who's part of Deep Learning AI. He was part of Google Brain when he was there. He's out of Stanford. He's an associate professor there. He built Coursera. He's one of the founders. So I follow what he says. He's one of the leading thinkers. I follow what Andrej Karpathy says. He was one of the OpenAI founders. He went to work at Tesla for FSD. I follow things like LangChain and Crew AI and AutoGen out of Microsoft and Semantic Kernel. So I look at those papers, I look at the code that they do, and then I cherry pick and I go, I started making noise about LangChain, just a small group of people. I was like, this thing is just it's good what it does, but it's way overcomplicated. There's got to be simpler ways. And within a matter of months, everybody was saying how LangChain was too opinionated and too complicated. So when I came up with New Agent, I didn't just magically wake up on a Saturday morning and go, hey, New Agent. All right. All these ideas were percolating, and I was like, this looks like a much easier way. I'm going to implement this. And I'm quite surprised. I ported the function calling stuff from OpenAI, which later on became Model Context Protocol for Anthropic. They took what OpenAI did, made it MCPs, and now there's a discussion of, there's arguments on both sides, which is what, when do you use it, why do you use it? I ported that back in 23. And I'm surprised how well it stood up for like the last couple of years. And we'll see some of those pieces coming up. So if I just type in New Agent, right, it's just basically, it creates a config. It has tools, show calls. I can dump that to JSON, so maybe we can see it a little easier. I have a little dump JSON function, right? So you can see tools are null, show calls not present, and then I'm defaulting to a GPT-4o mini model. Now, so just from that basic configuration, I have another function where you can pipe it into start conversation. And what that does, it just basically, it sets you up in a loop, right? So it's in a while loop, it does a read host, and that's what you're seeing here. So now if I say something like capital of France, that's my favorite go-to prompt. So it just took my prompt, right? And it sent it up to the model, sent it up to 4o mini, and it came back with a response. And I wrapped that in a little visual. And then you have an opportunity. I say, okay, here's your next steps. You can follow up, meaning if you want to say, okay, capital France, maybe I want to get the GDP or the size of the population. And I can start follow up based on that, enter the copy and quit. So I can, if I press enter now, capital of France, the capital of France is Paris, will get copied to the clipboard. We'll show you that, why that's cool. And Control C will just get me out of it. And this is all from 25 characters, right? And I'm interacting and having a chat GPT web experience, right? So thank you, Chen. So now if I type in Spain, it'll come back with the capital Spain, I hope. Now, how did it know that? How did it know the context? I just picked out 5 characters and I just tossed it and said, oh, I got it. So what I did in New Agent is I gave it memory. Okay, so it has, so when you type a prompt, I store that. I store the response from the agent or from the model. Look at it. Those are interchangeable, right? Agent and model. When I type in Spain, it becomes part of the list, that's a part of the conversation, and the capital of Spain is Madrid, becomes part of the conversation. And so there's no mystery, there's no magic, there's no mystical. When you hear about, oh, agents have memory, all I'm doing here is keeping a track of it in an array. And anytime that I type something new, like Iceland, Greenland, and Brazil, and I notice I misspelled Iceland, but it figures that out. So now that all becomes part of the conversation, and I send the entire conversation up each time. And you might think, oh, that's going to be really slow. Well, you saw how fast it was, right? So that's what memory is. Now, some people and the large AI tech firms, they get into, well, here's how you prune your concept. Yeah, because you have a token limit, right? So here's how you prune it. Here's how you do this. Who cares? I have some basic needs. Typically, I get in and out of this 50 times a day. Like I just have a new set of memory all the time. And you should do the same thing in Visual Studio Code or Windsurf or Cursor. And those are the recommendations they come up with. So all you're doing is keeping track of the conversation in an array. In this case, again, in Visual Studio Code's case, they store it in SQLite. I'm planning to make that available inside of this PSAI. Actually, I'm going to keep it in DuckDB. That's another live stream. So where you keep it, how you keep it, how fast you want to be able to access it. If you keep it in a database, the cool thing about that is you can then search the database and pull in what you think is relevant context for overall conversations. If you use ChatGPT Web, I know what I've been talking to that thing since 2023. And it'll say, I'll start saying, hey, I'm thinking about XYZ. It goes, oh yeah, you remember back in 23 when you were talking about it? You were talking about XYZ, and it tells me about it. I'm like, oh man, you know way too much about me. So that's that, but all it's doing is being able to figure out what context of the conversation to provide to the model, so it doesn't get overloaded in the context window. Won't talk much about that. Let's take this a little further. Since I'm inside of a conversation with a model, I can say something like in a table. Any takers on what that might do? Too late. So we'll see what it does. And notice it comes back with a markdown table, right? Notice it doesn't give me all of them. So I'm going to do forward. I have slash commands in my stuff. Had that before Cursor did. Not that it matters. But now I'm going to say in a table, all countries I asked about. So I give it a little more context. Now hopefully we'll see, so there's all of them, France, Spain, so on and so forth. Now, this is all from new agent, type it to start conversation, right? That's all this is. And if you crack on, and it's all native PowerShell. So if you look at the PowerShell, you'll be able to see how I built it, and you can start making certain types of get ideas, take it in the direction you want to take it in if you want to change it. And it's pretty flexible what it can do. I'm going to just do one more thing. I'm going to say, so since we're talking to a model and I've got all the, oh, we're going to do that for the next example. Never mind. I'm going to press enter. So I just copied that table, right? We'll go back over here and I'm going to paste it inside of Visual Studio Code. And down here on the bottom right, makes it a markdown. And there we have, I magically have a rendered markdown from my conversation. In that conversation, I could have said something like compare and contrast Terraform, Ansible, and Bicep, right? and it could have come up with a whole bunch of things, and that would be the beginning of a report that I have if I want to send out to people. If I want to do it on IAC, or if I want to do it on any other kinds of stuff, like, compare and contrast XAI with OpenAI, or not even technical terms. I can say compare these different kinds of motor vehicles or EVs and so on and so forth. So this is how I use it day in, day out. I did lift the concept of doing this at the command line from one of the examples I saw back in 22. This is what they didn't demo this nice of an interface that I have, but they demoed this at either in Ignite or one of those in 2022. And that's when I said, oh, it was all written in Python. I was like, hey, I can do that in PowerShell a bit. So, and then when I built it, I was like, oh, this is amazing at the command line. Since then, right, we have Gemini CLI, we have Copilot CLI, we have Codex CLI from OpenAI. We have Claude AI from Anthropic, which has their CLI. It's the same concept with more and more capabilities in it. So yeah, so let's keep going. Let's take a look. Now, I'm going to fire this up one more time, and I'm going to say current weather in. Now, you'll see me make a lot of mistakes spelling, and I'm just going to press enter, and I'm going to let the model figure out every once in a while. Sometimes I'll correct it, maybe not. Current weather in New York City. I can't provide real-time weather info, however, so at this point, many people punch out of AI, and they're like, I thought I was talking to Commander Data on Star Trek. It should be able to tell me any answer and make me dinner. This is not AI of TV shows and movies, right? This is an amazing tool that we've learned to leverage, and it's getting better and better and better. But this back in 23, we were experimenting with this, and I got lucky that I talked to a lot. I was finding people on X, and they were all machine learning data scientist folks, and they were communicating about what they were finding. A lot of these folks went on to work at Anthropic and or Scale AI and those kinds of companies, and they were unbelievably generous answering my questions. Like, they would come up and go, oh yeah, we tried this, but it hallucinated. And I would write, where the hell did you come up with the term hallucination? And they're like, oh, it's all in all the research papers. I'm like, well, where's the research papers? And they were kind enough to continue the conversation. And when this kind of stuff started happening, they were like, well, what if we wrap a function name with parameters in a JSON structure and then send it up to AI? Maybe you can, and then say, anytime I ask you a question, see if any of those functions I gave you match what you could do, and then tell me what I should call and with what parameters. Oh, cool idea. And they started experimenting and building their own scaffolding and their own programming techniques to do that. And that's where we are today. So let's get out of here. Here's Weather Agent. Okay, it's get weather. If I run get weather right here, maybe some folks are familiar with the WTTR.in. Let me just try and change this. Oops. All right, so if I write get weather, and we'll go with Amsterdam, you can tell me if it's true. Oh, it's in Fahrenheit. I apologize. Right, so if I say New York City, right, so this works like as we expect. If we're all syntax slingers, we love to call functions, we love to pass parameters, right? 58, that's about right. There are, I don't know which part of New York City, but anyway. But this is how you call this particular REST endpoint, which is free. So I just wrap that in a function, and I give it one parameter, and I'm typing the parameter. Drop that into the REST to the URL with a bunch of stuff on how to format it. So I get back whether it's an icon, Fahrenheit, all the rest of the, which way the wind is going, all that kind of stuff. Now, I can't type in the get weather and say, what's the current temperature in ABC, right? That won't work. I have to give it an actual location. But if you take that same function, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a hash table that I'm going to splat. Here is the LLM, and you can choose the model from AI that you want, right? So here I'm going to say, give me the 4.1 model, right? And the tools, well, that's the name of the function, get weather. And then I'm going to set up new agent, same as we did before. There's the start conversation, and there's the parameters I'm going to splat. So I'm just telling it what tool to work with, right? So if I spell that out, I don't know if it's worth, right? So if I spell it out, it's just basically new agent. Come on. Oh, there we go. Tools, get weather, and that's it. And I'm not going to give it the LM, and then I can start the conversation. I am now giving the agent a skill. I'm giving it a capability, right? So we can now figure out, hey, I got tools. Maybe I can answer the prompt with a tool call. So let's see what that looks like in action. And we will go with O2 weather. We'll run that up. We get back to the same prompts. I have a different emoji for it. And we're going to say current weather in New York City. Remember before it said it couldn't get to real-time data. But now it'll take a little bit longer because it's actually going to call a tool. And hopefully the weather tool is working today. Well, it just did work. This is, come on, today's not my day. Oh, I was a little too hasty. Let's try it again. What's today? Wednesday? So maybe they're rolling stuff out at OpenAI. So remember before I did on the bottom, right? New York City, 58 degrees, right? So what new agent does is it takes the prompt, right? Takes the tools I gave it. And for the tools, all that's going up is the name of the function, all the names of the parameters, and the data types for the parameters, right? So in -tools, when I send that up, I actually transpile it to a JSON structure, a JSON schema that OpenAI expects it to be used. So now when I give it, it doesn't say that it can't get to real-time stuff. It says, oh, I can call that tool. I can have that tool get weather called, and then I send the response from the tool back up. Now let's see that let's take that one step ahead, and we're going to go to 2A. So here what I'm going to do differently is I have a show.
One question,
Yeah.
Doug. Why is it a global function?
Is that from you?
No, it's from chat. I'm just relaying Joel's question.
Okay, fair question. I'm still, because what happens is I'm actually stripping out, I'm actually figuring out the global, I'm actually figuring out the function name that you give me and all the parameters, but it's very deep in the hierarchy of where I'm pulling it out. And I haven't written the get PS call stack to figure out where it came from. So I just made my life easy for this one to say, it's global, we're good. If you drop this in a module, you're good to go. You don't have to make it global. Yes, and I'm gonna that change is on its way. So it's just because I'm lazy, but it's needed if you're gonna do it in this approach, which is how most people will use it currently. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just adding a switch show tool calls, and let's try and run that up. And now what'll be interesting is when I run it and ask for the current weather, I should get and see. So this is what. So by me saying current weather in New York City and sending it to the model says, oh, I can't answer that question. Oh, look, I have a tool called get weather. And it's telling new agent, call the get weather with this parameter and that value. Okay. If I had 15 parameters, it would figure out which ones are needed, which ones are not needed to be called. We'll see that in play a little bit later. So now I have the weather. Now I can do stuff like, if I was going to call get weather at the command line or in a script, and I wanted to find out Amsterdam, Paris, and London weather, I'd have to make 3 separate calls, right? But because I'm in a NLP or a prompt kind of environment with a model, I can say weather in Amsterdam, Paris, and I can misspell it. It'll get it correct because it'll correct it for me. And London. Notice I can put a bunch of white space in there, and the model says, oh, I can parse that. And it's telling me to make 3 calls. So basically the model is thinking, and it made the 3 calls to get all the information. I made the 3 calls on it. It doesn't do the actual call. It does a remote procedure call. It's telling me what functions to call and what parameters to set with what values. I do all that, take those responses, and then the entire conversation now has that, and it goes back up to the model, and the model says, okay, here's your current weather updates. Let me ask a couple of more. Just I'm going to say Brazil and Iceland. And we'll get 2 get weather calls. And then that all goes back up. And remember, the entire conversation is going. So all the data, Harish, hey, don't steal my thunder. Okay, so now we see Brazil. I'm going to clear the screen, but I'm not going to do it in HTML because I can't render it. I'm going to say in a table. So remember, I asked for a bunch of countries or locations, and that's almost a good thing. All locations I asked about. Now, when I'm typing all these contextual changes, like all locations I asked about, you can actually notice it didn't do any calls. Okay, so I got two concepts here. So you don't, if I set up the new agent, I have a thing called hyphen instructions, which is basically your initial prompt. It's called a system prompt. And I can say, whenever questions are being asked about X, Y, and Z or whatever, always include the entire conversation. So that way you're not always, you don't have to set that up or type that one time in your actual interaction in the conversation. So it now pulled everything back. Notice I didn't get any verbose functions. It didn't have to call up anymore to get weather, because it already had all that information about the locations in the conversation. Okay, so now we see all that good stuff. I don't know why we don't have any temperature for Iceland. Oh, no data for Iceland. Is Iceland still with us? Did the volcano hit? Now I'm going to clear the screen. Now, because instead of an HTML table, I'm going to say, do I need an umbrella? Because I'm in an NLP, right? Now, this may not be something you give your clients or your coworkers, and there you go, right? New York City, no. Amsterdam, maybe. How's the weather in Amsterdam? Need an umbrella? Nope.
You always need an umbrella.
It says light rain.
If you don't bring it, you'll need it.
There you go. And it comes back and says, sorry, no data available for Iceland. So I show this example for a few reasons. One, you start seeing how tools or skills are given to the AI. You're also starting to see like the kinds of questions you can ask. You don't have to be, chained to doing syntax calls. You can have multiple calls made depending on how you do your prompting. Cool. So let's go on to another example. So that's weather. Now let's take a look at another couple of functions which are cool, I believe. Notice the global. Thanks for paying. Sorry about the HTML table. I'll do that next week. So I have a get stock and an invoke web search. Same idea, same like the weather. For the get stock, I'm going to call something called financial model in modeling prep, right? That's a company. It's a free tool I use. You can use any one that you want. Maybe if I work at Wall Street, they have different tools that I can call, REST endpoints that I can do internally. But this one's free. You can do like 250 calls a day. You set up your key, all good. And here's my invoke web search. I use Tably. It's tuned for AI model for AI to work with when you do a search. It gives you like, I think 1,000 a month. And again, it's just like the weather, a simple invoke REST method, right? I'm going to just take that. Yeah, I'm just going to run it up here. And I can do things like invoke web search. So what's a good thing to search for? Any takers? Let's call AI lab news. And this will go out and call the Tably function. And let's capture that in a variable. Got results, I think it is. Yeah. And this is what it comes back with. So it's like a Google search, okay? And it comes back with a title, content, all that kind of stuff, right? And let's see what we get with the invoke, with the get stock. And I'm going to say Microsoft. Did I spell it right? Nope. Now, it's very important to spell correctly when you're doing actual function calls, and I did it wrong. So couldn't find it. And now premium? What are you talking about? Oh, how about we go with MSFT? That's right. So you have to know to use a symbol, and that'll be interesting when I do the AI demo. Okay, so that's what get stock comes back with, right? Now, let's go to the command line. what is this, 03. Now I've changed the emoji, got a little graph, so I know what I'm working with. And I can say something like, get open close for Microsoft and Apple. Now imagine parsing that in any language, figuring out the stock symbols for either one of those, and then calling the appropriate stuff. Well, that's a walk in the park for AI. So here we go. Notice it says, so from get open close for Microsoft and Apple, it figures out on its own from its training data what the stock tickers are. And then it says, hey, call the get stock function with that. And there we have the open close. I can still do things like capital of France because I'm still talking to an AI model, right? So there's no function calls being done, but I'm interacting. Now let's take it up a notch. I want to do get the open close and get a piece. I don't know if this is going to work. We may have to tweak this as we go. Piece of news about both with links. Now, we'll do this in the next second. So now we're getting an invoke web search. Latest news about Microsoft. It's doing the get stock. AI is figuring out what to call, when, how. Tells the new agent, this is what you need to call. I do the call because I know the functions are available, right? Global, remember. So it can does the function calls. I take the results from that and I package it all up as part of the conversation that gets sent back in a AI role content message. And then AI looks at all that and then does a summary for me. And sure enough, there we have some links about stuff that's happening with Apple. Apple unveils a new iPhone. Is that new or old news by now? And Microsoft is laying off 9,000 workers. Okay, that was like a few months ago. But they could be doing it again. Now, let's do this. I'm going to make one change. So I'm going to come back in here. Let's say you don't want to give it to your clients or you want to run this headless. How many people want to run it headless? I do. So now instead of saying start conversation, I can say get agent response, and I can put the prompt in here. And I'm going to say get open close, right? And I'm going to run it again. And now it runs headless, giving out all the verbose information, no interaction from me. And this is what I put in my GitHub Actions. I put them in my Azure Functions. I put it in my AWS Lambdas because I can create Docker containers, right, that have PowerShell installed, have PSAI installed, have my keys installed, and I am off to the races. Any questions so far? Thoughts? Suggestions? Come on, AI is more conversational than you folks. No, I'm only kidding. All right, let's keep going. How much time do we have?
As much time as you want. I see
Right.
a couple more demos, so I think that should be very doable.
All right. So I was actually going to end on 04, but I was playing with some ideas. We'll see if we'll get to those. So this one is near and dear to my heart. It's a lot of fun. Oh yeah. So I just want to show this, right? So I'm inside of Visual Studio Code, right? I just clicked up here to open up the chat Copilot, right? And these are all the free models. They have Grok Fast 1. You could also bring your own key, which I do. And I don't see why I don't see them today. Yep. So like I'm loading up the latest Sonnet 4, 5, even though that's part of the 1X cost from Microsoft. So this is the whole thing of choosing, your context, your prompt, and your model. You can choose your model. Here's where you type your prompt. And your context of the files that you have open. Your context is all the files in your workspace. Okay, so why is this example near and dear? Don't do that. I typed clear screen and wanted to run it. How cute. All right, let's reset you. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop this into ask mode because I don't want it to create any code for me if it thinks it needs to. And what I'm going to say is, what is the open close for Microsoft? So I'm asking CodeFast 1 inside the UX of IDE. So first thing it's going to do, this might be really cool. So it actually searches my code. It's searching my workspace, and it found the stock info. I didn't intend this, if it's going to do. And it's telling me how to run that program. So take that in. Visual Studio Code looked at my code base and said, oh, you have something that can do it. I'm going to tell you how you can run it. If I was in agent mode, it would actually try and run the 03 example for me. That's how crazy this shit is. Now, I didn't want that to happen, but I'm not going to go create a new directory. But if I was in a clean directory with no code, I think it would come back and says it can't get to real-time information. And then you can't easily give it tools. Okay, it does have MCP capability, but it does not have where you can give your own tools. MCP, right? And that means you'd have to create your own server. You have to plug it in, all kinds of stuff. Not as simple as just giving it tools and sending it to the races. Now, why is that back to my example, why I like it? Let's see what we got. Oh, that's too much stuff. All right, we're going to do it all at the command line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new agent, and I'm going to set it to a variable. And I want to see the tools that are being called, okay? And I'm not going to give it any instructions at this point. I'm going to give it an LLM. This is how you can pick your model. And I want to do GPT 4.1. It's fast, it's accurate, and not the best model, but it works for this example. And now I'm going to give it a bunch of tools. I'm going to give it 4 tools. So I'm going to ask questions, and hopefully folks can answer. What does get content do? This is a PowerShell quiz. Anybody? Oh,
Gets file. Yeah.
Excellent. What does, now I'm going to notice on tools, I'm going to pass it a few. I'm going to pass it in set content. What does set content do? Come on, we got some
Echo outputs. Yeah.
excellent adds content. I'll accept that, but it's not 100%. What does get child item do?
Get a file.
Does a directory. Excellent. Just play along. Doing ILS. We got a Unix person. Okay, and I'm just going to throw in for giggles get location. Okay. So now I'm just setting up the configuration for the agent, so nothing happens. Here's the files. I just did a dir. Now I'm going to take the agent and I'm going to pipe it to start conversation. And I'm going to say, what files do you see? Now notice I'm not spelling out the YOU. I wonder if AI can figure out what I'm missing. Oh, what's going on? So I asked, what files do you see? And there we have it. So it figures out from what files do you see? Hey, I think I'm going to call get child item. Now, if I was in a Unix environment and I wrapped up the Unix tools like ls and cat and all that kind of good stuff and redirection, I'd get the same behavior and the same experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break out of that. I'm going to bring back up my editor, and we're going to just do this, bring back up this, bring that down. So let's have some fun. Now, this is called YOLO. You only live once. This is for professionals. It's only an exhibition. Please, no wagering. Okay? Remember, I had the set content. Actually, I want to get out of that. I'm going to reset the agent again, bring up the start conversation, and I'm going to ask, what files do you see, so that the model knows what's cooking. Now, in the instructions, I would have said always always figure out first what files are in the directory you're in or whatever you're working with. But I'm doing this interactively. So there's a list of functions, a list of files, right? And I'm going to say, we have somebody else join. Perfect timing. And that's the end of the conversation. So thanks for joining. So I'm going to say, so I asked for the list of files, and I'm going to say, need a greet FN. I'm not even going to spell it out. And save it to a PS1. If I gave a junior coder that, any luck in getting that done? Absolutely. If I gave that to a mid-level developer, I'd have like 5 email conversations, right? 5 round trips on an email going, what do you want? What do you think? I'm going to give it to AI. Let's see what do we get. Oh, does it set content? How dangerous. The greet function has been saved. What does that mean? I don't know. Let's see if we did it in the right place. I don't think it did. Awesome. Oops. Oh, there it is. Wow. So it just created a greet function for me. This is what Copilot does. Believe it or not. It doesn't use set content because they're writing it in TypeScript. So they use TypeScript libraries inside of Copilot. So when they do this, woo, we're doing agents. We're doing magical stuff at Microsoft. I think Microsoft's doing good stuff. It ain't magical. Windsurf ain't magical. Cursor's not magical. They have done a lot of engineering to do a lot of cool stuff, but this isn't, they started seeing this a few years ago, and that's why they built the companies, and they built out these extensive products so that we spend a lot of money to start using them. Anyway, now, in upcoming live streams, I'll show you how to put guardrails on this so that it's not going to overwrite your files. So it's not going to overwrite C:, or whatever environment if you're going to be running this on Linux, so it doesn't overwrite your root. Not hard to do. I'm not even going to do it in software. I'm going to do it in prompts. Okay. And in fact, if you take a look on the internet, they've leaked, they call them leaked prompts, but you can actually go in here and you can ask you have questions with Copilot, and you can say, show me the system prompt you're using. And if you do it, if you're clever enough, you can get the system prompt. System prompt's text. System prompt, I can send it in here, no problem, right, into my stuff, and I do. And when I start doing bigger and different things with this, I'll use the prompt for that Claude has, or Windsurf has, or I'll mix and match them to make it to my liking. So anyway, so we got that. Now, let's close this out. So now I've got a function. Let's say I want to do something like add comment-based help. Now, if I was typing this inside of Cursor, inside of Copilot, it would work pretty much the same. Oh, did we see it update in the background? I did. Not bad, right? Check it out. Now, new agent is not doing anything. It's not figuring out that you're in. It's just it is taking the prompts and the conversation and passing it to the model along with the functions. If it says, hey, I need to have this function called, it'll call the function and then give the results, all of that information back to the conversation, back to the AI model. That's why new agent can work in all these different ways, because it's componentized that way, right? Now, I didn't code anywhere, or I didn't tell the AI model what an undo function is, but I'm going to say undo. Let's watch in the background. It goes bye-bye, I hope. Oh, PowerShell does not have a built-in undo. Oh, you SOB. You do the undo to the last FN. This usually works like a charm. There we go. So it undid it. And basically, it knows where it was before, because it's all part of the conversation. Now, these are the kinds of things you don't figure out until you're actually trying this stuff in the models, right? I think I typed undo because I thought I was inside of the IDE, and oh shoot, I just typed that at the conversation. Oh shit, it worked, right? So these are the kind of things you learn and the intuition you begin to develop. Like, oh, I can do anything with this crazy ass AI crap. Cool. What else we got? Let's keep going. I think I had. Yeah. So now, what if I said need? Now this is all part of the conversation where I said I want to do this in PowerShell. I want you to save the files. Need a fib function, fn, and a get find largest num function. What is that? Let's find out. Let's see if it works. Now, hopefully, there's one, and it created it both in noodles. Yeah, I didn't want that, but that's fine. Let's. It's all part of the conversation. There we go. Now I can say undo, and I can say make those separate files, and it would do it. This is exactly what's going on in Windsurf, Cursor, and Copilot. Let me say it again. This is exactly what's going on. Difference is I own the loop. I own the interface. If I want to make this so it saves data in different places, I can do that. I don't have to wait for Microsoft or any other company to build this. Yes, they have some really cool features that I like that I'm not going to build. But I have a choice point now, okay? And now I can come back here and I can say, I don't know if this is going to work because I usually have it in separate files. But let's try. You only live once, right? Add comment-based help. The other thing that's really cool is I can be running this all headless, right? So I can have just one big text file that says, create these 55 functions for me. Almost correct. Where did you get the percents from? See? That I've never seen that done before. Undo and redo. Now it probably will undo the greet stuff too. No, didn't do that. Awesome. Oh, I'm hitting buttons all over the place here. Yeah, I think I just, failed to save because I hit the space bar. So now I can get around this problem. I gave it no system prompt, right? If I showed you the system prompt for Cursor is 450 lines of text, right? That talks about what functions to use, what to do, when to do it, how not to do it, where to do it, and it's done by expert prompt engineers. And I encourage you, and what I do often is I find different repos and whatnot. I read other people's prompts. I read what Cursor's doing. I get ideas, and then I pick and choose, or I use their entire stuff, because that's what this is all about. And as we move from prompt engineering into context engineering, and hold on to your hats, I just heard about a new one, harness engineering, which I'm not going to talk about, right? So this stuff is not sitting still, okay? And I'm just showing you really quick stuff. I would never use this on my day-to-day if I set this up as this simple, right? Here I have a simple prompt to begin with. Do not prompt for confirmation, save all. See, I had save all to separate files, right? So if I gave it this prompt, I wouldn't have gotten everything in one. And I think at some point I actually said use idiomatic PowerShell. So it wouldn't have put the percent signs in. I would have guided the AI model. Notice here, I actually was using this to create unit tests. Add unit tests separately, .source files in the before all block. Okay, so often back in 2022 and 23, when I was first using all this stuff, anytime I said something to it, it would always come back in Python. Completely expected, because it was written by OpenAI, who are elite Python engineers, and they trained it on Python because they needed to understand what the models were doing. Okay, but now as time has gone on and people are being very much into what AI can do, almost all the languages are pitch perfect, right? But it doesn't hurt, depending on what you're doing, to steer the model with these basic prompts. This is a 5-line prompt and gets you in great places. Back to the new agent, I have a thing called hyphen instructions that you can specify. That's your system prompt. Okay, that grounds the model. That's the first prompt that's given to the model, and the models are trained to respect the system prompt at all times, right? So if instead of doing this as a prompt that it could lose over the conversation, okay, I would have put these two parts about the comment-based help and separate files and the unit tests all in the system prompt. And anytime I had a conversation with it about the PS1, it would know to use that as part of what it needed to get done. So I was going to say something else about that, and I don't remember. It's 2 o'clock my time. I got 2 more hours. I think everybody needs to go to sleep, huh? By your side, bedtime or time to grab a beer. What do you want to do?
Yeah, if you have a demo left, I'm okay if you go over. I mean,
I can make
there's still 30 people here, so they didn't get sick of you.
Excellent. They will now. I could, we have all the time in the world for you. Thank you very much. Excellent to hear. All right. What are we going to do? All right. You want to, let's see what we got. Oh, yeah. You want to see some really wacko crap? Okay. This is going to get you, this is going to put your knickers in a knot. Does that translate, Yap? It's going to put your knickers in a knot. I don't know if that, I only speak English. I apologize. It's going to put your panties in a twist. What I'm going to do here. Okay. Where am I? Make sure I'm in a good directory that I don't care. I'm going to do another new agent. Okay. I'm going to choose the LLM. I'm going to do an OpenAI one. I'm going to do GPT-4.1. What else we're going to do? We're going to just do that. And I'm going to pass in this tool. Okay. Here's where the knickers get in a knot. Not that. Invoke expression. Is everybody still with me? How dangerous is that? Do we have flexibility to add our own model? Yes, Chen, right there. All your own. Right now, I only support any of the OpenAI models, but the any model, including a llama, is coming. So remember when I said, oh, come on, don't be slow today. When I showed, I don't know if you were here at the beginning. Yay, 122 days. Right, when I do get in my other, so in my PSAISuite, I support talking to 13 different providers. So if I do something like invoke chat completion, sorry for the alias, but I don't feel like typing. And if I do open router and I do OpenAI, control space, here are all the different OpenAI routers. If I want to do X, there's all the Grok ones. If I want to do, I think, Quen, right, all the Chinese open source ones, these are most excellent. They're coming along really amazingly. And believe it or not, let's try ICC. And for all you folks in Europe, because you can't get access to our cool shit here in America, I apologize. You can, there you go. You can do it locally as well. I also support, oh, do I have it here? Olama. So I have Olama support in here. You give it the URL of your local machine, or wherever you're hosting your Llama models, and you can get to it with no problem. So yeah, and I'm going to blend the my PSAISuite into the PSAI, so all of this works together, all the function calling, all the tool setup, all the skill settings, so on and so forth. Cool. So let's go back to really crazy stuff. Invoke expression. How many times do you hear people say, oh my God, you're using invoke expression? What are you, crazy? That's against the rules. And I go, I don't care. Right? So what does invoke expression do? So if I do 1 + 3 in inside of a string, nothing happens. If I do invoke expression and I do it inside of that, it's what we call an eval. So it takes what's in the string and it actually runs that code, right? So that is very dangerous. So that's why only professionals like myself can use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to set that up again. Yep. Excellent work, Doug. Let's create another agent, and we're going to do it again. We're going to call it new agent. So by the time you see this, you'll be like, oh, I know how to do this off the top of my head. And new OpenAI, and we're going to do GPT 4.1, and I'm going to give it. I'm going to give AI eval capabilities on my machine. How crazy is that? So now all folks out there that are going, but wait, AI hallucinates. Yeah, it does. So it's I could get into a lot of trouble here. I do not recommend this without putting guardrails on. And as I said earlier, I'll be doing that in a live stream. Have to leave. Take care, Harm. Enjoy. So I'm going to give it invoke expression. and I'm going to say something like start conversation. Well, I'm going to actually give it instructions this time. And I'm going to say, always consider using, and I could just say tools, but I'm going to be specific. Invoke. Now this is I'm writing this as a steering message expression or system message to AI. I'm giving, remember this is the first message, this is the system message. Agent all models are tuned to use this because all models pretty much do function calling at this point because they've been trained, because it's a very viable technique, as you're hopefully seeing. So I'm giving it invoke expression, saying always consider using invoke expression, and I'm going to say start conversation. Now this may or may not work, but I can say something like list top 3 processes. I'm going to let's see where we go. Maybe I have to go back and give it, there we go. Did I say? Now I'm going to break out, do it again, and I'm going to put show two calls on so we can see what's actually going on. List top 3 processes. All right. Don't get the knickers in a knot, but what did it just do? AI just came up on the fly. Get process. It did a sort CPU. I didn't ask for that. Awesome. Glad you like it. Now, don't try this at home. Okay. This is super dangerous, right? I have techniques where it's similar. What's the stuff that we use in PowerShell where we set it up as a, I always get the name wrong. Yop, you can help me on this. We're a restricted runtime, right? We're restricted run space. So I don't do this with restricted run spaces, but I write a piece of code that wraps invoke expression, and I look at the command coming in to see if it's dangerous. The other thing you can do is you can, in that part of that thing where I say always consider using invoke expression, I can say to the model, do not do anything destructive. And believe it or not, if I asked it to remove files or restart processes, it'll say, sorry, I can't do that for you. To me, it's incredible. That's the kind of power you have over this thing. So remember, new agent, what is it doing? Letting you set up a bunch of parameters. It's just a configuration. Start conversation, puts you into a loop, does a read host, and it just manages the messages back and forth between the model. It has no intelligence in it. If you want to create your own functions, you can pass those in as tools. You want to use existing built-in ones like invoke expression, set content, so on. You get emergent behavior like, hey, go create a bunch of, here's a bunch of stuff. Go ahead and create a program for me, whether it's PowerShell, C#. I happen to be doing PowerShell here, but I could have asked for a C# program as a hello world or whatever combination, complexity. Or I can say, look at all my files, and I need to fix a bug in a memory leak that does blah, blah, blah. It'll go through the code just like Cursor does, just like Copilot does. It just cracks open all the code, reads it, understands it, and then tries to figure out what the solution is. This does that for you because there's no magic. It's just taking text from whatever you're doing and giving it to the model, and back and forth it goes. Get this information and sort it by volume and format. Are you asking me to do that?
No. I'm giving an example of how it could go wrong. That if you,
absolutely.
if you ask it to sort by volume and format as a table, and then it formats your drive.
Absolutely. Exactly. We think, when we type out our prompts like please do XYZ, we think we're clear, and then AI will take you literally, and it may be ambiguous. And if you don't have the guardrails on, it's going to go, oh, you mean format? Yeah, no problem. Format C, force, right? So that's why you need guardrails, right? Because you can be asking questions about this. You can be asking questions about customer service. You can be asking things like read a database and update some stuff. All kinds of things I'm going to be covering next week in my live stream. We have just scratched the surface on what you can do. So like, I don't know what else is good. Like, read the last 5 events from the application log. I have no idea. This is not what I do on a daily basis. There we go. Now, if you're one of the people that are sitting on the fence, hopefully nothing in there that's I shouldn't be showing. So if you're somebody who's sitting on the fence about AI, Jen, now PowerShell prompt to AI prompt, we are growing. There you go. Now, if you're somebody that's sitting on the fence about AI and you say, well, it hallucinates, well, it's faster to type it out. If you're trying to create software one character at a time, you're not going to make it. Okay, 2020, and this is only 2025. And OpenAI had their dev day last week, and they unleashed a whole, excuse my French, shitload of cool new things, including models. And now it's been only several days since then. They've already released more models very quietly. They haven't done it to fanfare. And these new models are doing different things, and they are insane, which is one of the reasons why it's important to be able to switch models. Remember my principles that I showed. You have context, model, prompt. Now, if your tools are not supporting a model, which I think is hilarious because when new models come out, I see everybody on social media, oh my God, a new model came out. I have to switch everything. Well, why isn't it just a text string in your application? What do you, sounds like you don't know how to program. So I can switch to any model, anytime, anywhere, and have my prompts doing what I want. But that also then brings up the conversation about evaluations and error analysis, which I will not talk about. And that's in a few live streams in about a few weeks. But if you're typing one character at a time to get to the next thing, even if you're a touch typist, this is how fast AI can do it. And all I did was some basics, right? Get that. Now I can actually have it, summarize. And remember, I can do this summarize. I don't know if it's spelled right. So there you go. So if I don't want to look at it as the actual details, I can do this all headless. I can do it in a single prompt. I can have a prompt that's in a text file that's 500 lines long, right? Go look at my entire system across A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever. Something's running really slow. Let's see. I don't know. I'm not going to do that one. I can say like, my machine is low on memory. Now I can put this and squirrel this away in a file, and I can have every day. I can say, check out the 50 machines in my cluster, and there you go. You may have multiple browser tabs open, so it knows what edge is. Close the unnecessary tabs. Long term, considering add more memory. Thank you very much. Spend more money. Restart your browsers and PCs. I knew it was Edge. That's true, and I do have Google Chrome open too. Yeah, so just think about, what you can do. And this, and now notice it didn't do an invoke expression and do the get CPUs. I had already done that in the conversation. And I can say something like recheck processes. I don't know if that's going to work, but we're going to see. And there you go. Wow, I didn't have to type that one character at a time. I'm happy. Cool. Now let's see if we get a little crazier. Do we want to get crazier? Yes, I do. Okay, so what I was saying before, I don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, I kind of whacked this together because I think this was based on Chen when you were talking about some of the new stuff coming out on Azure about the SRE stuff. I was like, yeah, I can build that. So what this is, I'm just going to copy this, right? Invoke AZ agent command. What am I going to do? I'm going to take a command. I'm going to write to the host what the command was, and then I'm going to invoke expression it. Now, at this point, I can actually have a flag on here that says, a switch that says allow write. And if it's not set, if this thing comes up and says, hey, remove these things, I can make it so it says, oh, you're not in allow write mode, so you can't do this. You have to do a specific override to the AI model. So let's just do this. I'm going to paste in that function. I'm going to come back up here, and now I'm going to swap out invoke expression. Take this out. This is how hard it is to give capabilities to an AI model at the command line. And again, this can be all inside your scripts. I build very sophisticated scripts with the same set of pieces. with the same concepts. And I'm going to get rid of the instructions. We'll see how that goes. Now, I don't remember. I have the Azure portal, the Azure instance and tenant that I have. I think it's empty. It might have a couple things in there, but I don't care if it gets creamed. Okay. Don't try this in production without the guardrails and testing and seeing what you have and having logs that actually get saved. New agent saves all the conversations, and you can then save that to anywhere you need to if you wanted to. So let's see if I can say list RG. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's try. Oh, I'm happy. Now, how amazing is that? If I emailed an intern and said list RG, what do you think would happen? It appears there was an issue. That's fine. The only reason there's an issue is because there are none. So if I sent, hey, list RG to an intern, they would probably pass out at their desk because they wouldn't know what I'm talking about. There you go. Thanks, Jenna, for that reference. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to say create 3 resource groups called DuPSUG_test. Now that's kind of dangerous. Oh, look, it numbered it 1. D1, 2. Now it's going to default to East US, but I could have told it where I wanted it to. So I just created 3 resource groups. Come on, baby. There you go. And it even gives me the command. I don't know why it gives it to me as a shell command. I guess it's because AZ is in written and go. So it just did that. Now let's clear the screen and list my resource groups. So I'm typing 25 characters, but I'm leveraging AI to do the work as well. Now, oh, come on, you're full of crap. Maybe I need to, maybe they didn't get created yet, or maybe this stuff isn't, this should just work. Liar. So sometimes when you yell at it, it may or may not work. I don't think it will. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Let me try. So that's a sad, see? So this is why don't try this at home and don't try it on your production system. List all the resource groups I created. Now it may pull that from the conversation. See, yeah, so it pulled it from the conversation. It didn't actually go check if they are created. So I'm having a conversation, right? I'm not sitting here having to type the stuff, group show. That looks cute. Now, if I gave it more autonomy, I can make this more autonomous, that if it starts having an issue, then I can have it try to redo things and have it figure out what to do. That's what some things that you can find are really interesting in the VS Code type Copilot things or Cursor or Windsurf. If it creates something and it fails on a unit test that you asked it to create, it will sometimes try to run things at the command line to figure out what's going on. So it's still not, I'm not sure why it's not playing nice today. I don't really want to figure it out. I might not have paid my bill. All possible. Even though it said it came back and created them. This worked. I mean, I wrote that command, that stuff, and yeah, I don't know why it said that it created it. So it lied for some reason. Anyway, that said, I'm not sure why that didn't work. And I'm not sure why it didn't work, and I'm not sure why it didn't report an error. So if AZ group create failed for whatever reason, it should have come back with that error message, and I would have taken the error message and passed it back to the model in the conversation so that it could have said, oh, okay, this didn't work. Let me try something else. I don't think it worked. I don't know what's going on today. Maybe I need to relog in. That's very sad. I will definitely
check your subscription context and which subscription you're trying to authenticate and try to create this one though. Is it only one subscription you have got? Or
I don't know. I'm not
all right, yeah. Yeah, that's a good prompt.
Isn't that?
Yeah,
now, yeah, so maybe I'm not logged in, which I don't.
Yeah.
It's this work. I don't. Yeah, but what should happen is there should be an error that it's getting, and then it should report it back to the model, and the model should be telling me, oh, I got
Right.
this issue, rather than saying I attempted. So it's confused. I don't like that. But again, it tried to do the right command. And what's interesting, I always like to say, if I'd send this as an email to an intern, nothing's going to happen. But that's the kind of power that you can have with this thing, if it actually works, which clearly it's not. So moving on, let's plenty of other things to play with. So now what I was talking about, notice I'm not giving it a full capability of invoke expression, right? So this kind of protects you, this is one step in guardrails, right? So you don't just give it the AZ command, and you don't just give it straight away invoke expression, because if somebody tried to spoof this, you'd have to get the correct AZ stuff. But I wouldn't put this out in public. I would use this like locked down inside of a company. And what I would do here is when the command came in, I would parse it. Like, does it contain delete? If it does, I would then, so I'm just going to write pseudocode here. I would say return, right? And I would also put something up here called $allow write, which is what I use in all my invoke expression stuff. And I would set this up as a switch, and I would have 2 checks. So if this thing the switch was said allow write, I have an entire list of things that like remove, delete, do things to the registry. I have that as a list of stuff that I check against, right? So if the invoke expression comes in and it has any of that in it, I fail it and I do a return. If I if I prompt it and say, no, I'm the owner, please go ahead, the model will then set the allow write to true, and then it would still set the list up of what you want to set, what you're going to allow through. So if you only wanted to remove certain types of folders or remove certain types of resource groups or certain kind of resources, you have complete control of that inside of your PowerShell. So again, this stuff is not magical, and I don't think it's hard to build, right? This is, I think, stuff people have built in other ways up to now. Let's see what we got here. Let's do one more thing. Oh, let's see. I don't even know if it's going to, now I'm concerned that something's going on, that this is not working. But anyway, let's do this. So I'm going to run this dashboard agent, right? I'm listing out the tools, get drive and get process, right? So we can do figure out what drives I have and a bunch of information. And my prompt is going to be simple: gather all the drive information, all running processes. I'm going to set up my hash table again that I'm going to splat. Oh, this is going to be cool if it works. Telling it that I want to use GPT-4.1. I give it the list of tools I define up top. I want to show the tool, what tools are getting called, and check out that. There we have an instruction. I'm doing a get content minus raw on generate dashboard MD. What the heck is that? What is that? I don't even know. So here is a prompt, right? This is a type of prompt that I'm going to set up as a set of instructions inside of here. Okay, so here's my prompt, gather all the stuff, but I'm going to say, here's my system prompt, and my system prompt's about a workflow, embed CSS directly, here's the layout, here's the tables. And so I'm going to run this. I'm going to run it headless, create a new agent with all these parameters, run it headless, let it figure out the drive and the processes doing its thing, and then it's going to use this instruction set to create an HTML table, and whatever comes back, I'm going to save into dashboard.html. And I don't have that here, so let's do an 05, and let's see my demo fail. So now there you go. So so the model got the prompt, and it got that big instructions about the dashboard, and it said, okay, I need to call PS Drive, get that info, did a get process, get that info. This context that I'm sending up a whole bunch of tokens, right? Because it's got that big MD file. It's got all the stuff about the processes running and the drive running. I don't have intermediate turned on at the moment to show you where's the model, what is it doing, like you would see in ChatGPT, right? It would say, oh, I'm doing this. I'm figuring out the HTML. I'm building this part of the HTML file. That's not enabled at the moment. And hopefully this doesn't fail and produces a good result. Now, this is one of the ways I use it, not just on my own machine, but the concept of here's a list of tools, create a bunch of HTML reports, or create a bunch of CSV files, or update a bunch of databases. Now, if you're going to do the update databases, again, we go back to talking about guardrails and whatnot. Now, the only reason this might take long is that this generate dashboard is a bit involved, as you can see. Maybe too involved. I did use 4.1 though, didn't I? Yes. I think I'm going to blame OpenAI that they're updating the models. That's what I'm going to go with. Oh, there we go. Cool. Let's see if we have a dashboard. And we have a dashboard. Okay, so it just generated a dashboard. And I'm going to click on preview. And I'm going to go have a beer. So there. Oh, look, it gave me a search. Now, I'm not really good at HTML or CSS. So I can search for drives or anything in there like cert. There's my certs. Let's do registry, right? So as I type, oh, I've got a search in my processes too. I can do Edge, a lot of those cooking. VS Code, I don't know what. Nope. Anyway, so these are all, now I don't think, and notice it says all columns, or I can just search by process. It built this on its own, okay? And I can go back into the dashboard and I can tweak this prompt as much as I'd like. And I can give it different tools. I can give it 5 more tools. I can give it no tools. I can be looking at who knows what. You know, let your imagination run wild. I want to see, I don't know if it set it up, but let's see. I don't remember if I put it in. So I didn't put make sure you can sort the headers. So now I do this same thing, but I might give it a database call, or I might give it a CSV file, or I might give it an Excel file and say, hey, here's my Excel file with 12 months worth of sales data. Give me an HTML layout, make it interactive, use React, and go to town, and off it goes. And I can tell you this much, that's what the new agent mode for M365 Excel is doing. Right? It's building you're seeing what I'm building here. It's building that at scale, and so they have better prompts and they have more tools, but it's the same concept. It's conceptually the same. So the same setup doesn't have to be limited to doing just PowerShell calls, is my point. Tools makes it very component driven. Do whatever you want in there. You want it to read a CSV file? No problem. In fact, what's really weird is you don't even need to give it import CSV. Because if you give CSV to a model, it understands CSV better than we do. It understands JSON. It understands XML. It understands YAML. Okay? So you can give it straight away, or you can use your tools. Let's say you have a database, or let's say one of the things I love playing with this is I'll create 3 or 4 CSV files that does shipping orders for customers, where to bring it all together, it's in 4 different CSV files. It has to do joins on CSVs to get the right information. I'll give AI all 4 CSVs and say, you know, who bought something on Tuesday and is it shipping? And it has to go figure out the joins and this and that to be able to pull back the proper information and give me the proper answer. And it does it pretty much flawlessly, except for my AZ CLI example. So planting seeds, 18 lines of code to get to a dashboard. Now, if you want to get real custom with the dashboard, no problem. That's why I say read, right? This is just a prompt. Happens to be in Markdown. It happens to use, you know, Markdown stuff. This could have been in JSON. This could have been in XML. So it's as good as you can communicate, which is a challenge for us as developers, at least for me. How do I communicate stuff that's clear, concise, so I can get these kind of results? So I'm going to do one more thing that has nothing to do with the PowerShell piece that I have. So maybe people here have heard about, you know, spec-driven development. That's become the new big buzz stuff. And, you know, Microsoft has a spec toolkit, and there's a thing out there called Spec Story, and everybody's like, oh, this is a better way to do specs, and blah, 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 blah. And I think that's, you know, cool. I hear you. So watch this. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to create something called plan.md. All I did was create a file, okay? I'm going to come over here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go with Grok Code Fast for now. And now I'm going to say, I'm going to create a PowerShell to-do list script that supports CRUD. How many people know what CRUD is? I won't make any bad jokes. So that stands for, there you go, create, read, update, and delete. That's what we do with databases, right? So now, I'm talking about spec-driven development. Now I'm going to come down here. Notice you can actually drag the different files you want as part of your context, right? So I just dragged it. I didn't need to because it was open. So there's plan MD. I'm using Grok, and I'm going to say flesh out and polish the plan. Now, you can use any language, not just your first usage language that you're comfortable with. When I say language, you can use any kind of sentence structures you want. So I'm going to say flesh out and polish the plan. If you want to say, you know, and the more specific you can be here, that's good too. So you can right, if you don't like to use the word flesh and polish out, and you want to say, hey, update the plan or whatever, you're good. This is spec-driven development for me. I don't need another tool. I don't need to buy it from a company. And I can do all of this with the new agent stuff I just showed you, which I'll be doing in a live stream next week. Let's see what it did. So it went from a single sentence of create a PowerShell to-do list script that supports CRUD. And it even spelled out create, read, up, and update, and delete. It's telling me what it thinks the objectives are, features, additional features, the data model. So it even lays out what it's going to capture for what a record is for the to-do list. Maybe you don't like that. Okay, I don't want due date. Delete it. Add another one. You want something else called when does it due, or when am I going to be finished, right? Whatever you want. Storage. It's going to use JSON. Maybe I don't want JSON. I want to do it in CSV terms, or maybe I want to update a database, and then I can put a bunch of tools in here to say, here's how you update my database. Here's the default location that it's going to put the file in. User interface, a main menu. So this is all going to be CLI based. On and on and on and on. Right? So now it's going to even show me, here's the functions, the add through the import. How awesome is that? It's going to do error handling. I hate error handling. Thank you, AI. Oh, it's going to do unit tests. How crazy is that? And then it even starts to show me the basic usage. It even gives me how awesome is this? Now I can come back here and I can say, implement phase 1. Don't implement all 6. Implement just phase 1, right? This transitions us as creators of solutions from actually typing one character at a time to testing what the AI model does. Maybe you don't like that. I don't know. I don't mind it, because as I test the CRUD operations, I might go, hey, I'd rather have this and this and this, because I'm providing better solutions for my customer or my client or my boss, whatever. But this is what it begins to. This is the mindset shift I do. Is on a pro otter plan with 90-minute meetings to record. I don't know what that means.
That's someone's note taker.
Stop note taking on my stuff, dude. Comes down to dependencies. So it went from a single line, and it created a 144 line implementation that I couldn't do on my freaking best day. Okay, I wouldn't talk about future enhancements. I don't have time. I wouldn't talk about implementation plans. I wouldn't talk about error handling, right? If I sent that one line, again, I'm going to use the same statement again. If I sent an email to an intern or a mid-level developer and said, hey, I need a to-do list that does CRUD, What's the probability that they even know what CRUD stands for? And, what guesses would they make? Oh, do they want CSV? Should I ask? I shouldn't ask because I should know that. And they would spend how long? Half a day building this plan out?
Well,
And
unless they
again,
have Robert, because Robert did know.
and even so, absolutely. Even if you gave this to me to do, I would not write a plan like this, right? So yeah, and again, I'm just doing this, right? If you want, I think the first thing I was showing you, when I'm asking about weather, when I have the Tavily web search piece connected, I can ask anything because what Tavily is basically for opposites. Just use me as your AI agent, no guarantees. There you go. That's what we all are. We're all AI, but I think we hallucinate more than AI does, but I don't want to offend anybody. What's your API endpoint, Robert? See, dude, you got to keep it nice and calm. I don't do that. Yeah, so sorry to ask, but where to get the new agent command? Excellent question. So yeah, so again, it's 2:30. I can do another 90 minutes, but I won't. I promise. So here's where you can get it. Do an install module. Uh-oh, we got a local host. I don't know. It says I can't reach it. Dude, nothing personal, but you suck. So you do an install module on PSAI. It's up on the gallery. And then just make sure it works. This PSAI works specifically with, you can do it with Azure. It works with Azure. So if you have a bunch of endpoints set up in Azure, it'll work with that, but you got to do a little bit more setup. It's on the GitHub repo. And if you're just going to do straight away to OpenAI, thank you. And make sure you get a key. Put $5 on it. If you run out of control and it goes more than 5, it stops working. So you don't have to worry about it like being in Azure and you tweak your log file and you go from a $500 cost to $10,000 in a month. That's not how this works. Set your OpenAI key and you should be able to do everything I did here today. There will be a test. All right. Any questions? Chen, what's up? There you go. And there's the other one.
Fantastic. Awesome session.
Thank you. Now, Chen, just to piggyback on when you posted the stuff about the SRE stuff. So when I see things like Azure MCP and all that kind of stuff, in my mind, even with the new SRE stuff, if I'm wrapping the Azure CLI, all right, in my mind, and somebody, and it's funny when I talk to AI, I always say, check my work,
Right.
and tell me if I'm bullshitting, because I don't trust what it tells me, right? But if I have this thing with Obok, why can't I say, if I'm in a client, which I do, I say, hey, I need to deploy this new resource group. Why don't you look at a couple of them on the tenant and then model that, what you find, for the one I want to set up. Why am I in the loop?
Yeah.
The more I use this stuff, and I've been using these versions of GPT. I've been around AI for decades, but this stuff would, go ahead.
And of course, yes, this has more value because we know what's going to happen and we can have a specific control on it, because over there, as you mentioned, it's under the curtain. We are not really sure how it's going to work and what's happening in the back door. Like, we need to wait and see once the operation is completed. But it has a native integrations and it is a glossy in the portal, so people use that one. Those who are comfortable with CLI, I think this is going to give us more value compared to that.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely, yes. And I'm going to spend some more time, like how I can integrate this with policies and give some more value, because that's going to be good for us in DevSecOps model.
I would, and I would love to hear how you come along with that and hear the feedback on this. But yeah, and to your point, I don't have to wait for Microsoft to come up with the next MCP revision. Okay. Now, your company may not be comfortable with it, right? There's got to be more guardrails here. There's got to be better system prompts.
Yep.
But we're not talking about months of work, right? And if I want to come up with better system prompts, guess how I come up with better system prompts? I ask AI. Hey, AI, I'm going to use invoke expression with the AZ CLI, but I don't want it to do any damage. Create a system prompt for me. Boom, does it, and I add it as the instruction. So that's the feedback loop that I use, right? And I don't have to wait for Copilot or Cursor. If I want to capture the logs to a special thing, I don't have to go, hey, Microsoft, how do I get the logs off of Azure of what I did? I want to be able, I'll build my own. And I don't have to build my own because I'll just ask AI because AI knows how to do this stuff. It's insane.
Do effective things and play safe. That's exactly what we are doing it through this year.
There you go. And what you just said, that's a perfect prompt. Do effective things and play safe. I'm not kidding. Yeah. I see people on all social media and they ask questions. And because I'm from New York and I like to bust chops or bust stones, whatever you want to say, I take their questions and I give it to AI. I give it to ChatGPT and I go, answer this. Or it's even more fun on X because I can say, Grok, answer that question. And I'm like, there's no reason for you to ask the question. Just ask Grok. And Grok comes back with answers that most people on the platform can't give the answers to. I can't answer a ton of these. I look for ones I can't answer, right? It's not even about PowerShell. I'll answer questions about Rust. Well, I don't. I'll say, hey, use G. Remember back in the old days when Google came out and people go, how do I do X, Y, Z? And we'd say, Google this for me, right? We type in the stuff into Google and it would record a video and you send the video to that person. Well, that's what AI is. But you're not asking keyword searches. You're asking intent. You're asking concept questions. And this thing, as you just saw, I came up with a plan in 12 seconds. Well, is that the plan? Right? Why I can come up with the same plan to migrate my Azure blah, 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 and have it ask me questions like, well, what version? Like I can make a prompt in here and say, hey, right? I can make that in this file, Plan MD, and say, hey, I'm going to migrate this to this, lay out a plan and ask me questions that I need to answer so you can get it done correctly or that you can give better insight. And then it'll start running through and then Copilot will then prop up and say, hey, I don't know what XYZ is. Can you give me more details on this particular kind of thing that you're doing? And why? And if I have access to the Azure MCP or I have access to the AZ CLI inside of a script that can do it part of the agent, let it go out and let this thing figure out what I have currently. Let it figure out what commands to invoke so it can gather enough information so it can create a plan. And on that note, it's been a pleasure. Any questions? Concerns? Don't use invoke expression.
We get awesome from Michiel.
Thank you. Hope it was useful.
Thank you.
Doug's meetups are high. You're welcome. Hey, Matrix. Yeah, Matrix will be at next week. If you thought this was cool, next week's is going to be a mind blower. and I'm not just blowing smoke. You mentioned the API key for OpenAI, and you're using. I'm not sure what you mean, Robert. Oh, that just scrolls off real fast. Thank you. I'm glad it was cool. Is it possible to get a single API key, or you need a key for forever? You can get a single API key and then you can delete it. It's not like I don't know if you mean like, can you use it for a day and then it goes away? But you can create.
Let me rephrase it. You mentioned at first for OpenAI, you need a API key, but you said you're using OpenRouter to get access to multiple models and providers. Do you need an API key for each provider?
Yep. You need an API key for each one, and not all of them are free. I think they all cost. So, because I do the testing on it, get Chat Provider. So I have a API key for all of these, and I put $5 on each because I'm a big spender. My mindset about this stuff is I can't afford not to play with this. That's just my mind. I think DeepSeek is free. GitHub is free, but GitHub limits you. So you can use a lot of the models like OpenAI 4.1, but they limit you to 12 calls a minute. So they throttle you. And I do more than 12 calls a minute with some of the stuff that I do, right? Mistral, I think, might be free. Olama, of course, is free because it runs locally, but it runs slow as crap. But, if that's depending on what you're trying to get done, slow as crap may not matter. Perplexity, cost, the rest of them do cost. So I got like $5 on each. And I think I've had $5 on each for like a year. You know, I don't sit here and say, hey, here's a 75,000 line database or a 75,000 line legacy set of code, figure out what to do, which is crazy to do in the first place. Goes back to context, model, prompt. But I'm also not throwing, 50 PDFs at it, 200 pages each, and saying, hey, summarize these 50 PDFs. That's not how you use AI. But if you did do that, and you did it, right, if I'm in a large corporation and I'm trying to crunch through a bunch of legal documentation, yeah, I'm going to need to cough up several $1,000s a month or per week to rip through legal documentation. But it's worth it to them because they can get rid of all their interns. And that, on that note too, I say this every time. I've been saying it since 2023. AI is not going to replace you yet, but someone who knows how to use it will. I can work with 5 clients and come up with faster answers than their dev teams. But I know how to ask, hey, give me this, give me this, give me this. And then I can work with different kinds of models and providers to get answers and maybe even generate code and generate tests. You saw how fast I can knock out a plan. This is like back in PowerShell days, like early days, and I'm talking like 2002, going way back when, oh, wow, I can do 5 lines of PowerShell and I can do all this stuff. That was before Azure and whatnot, I think. But we can do all this kind of stuff in 5 lines of PowerShell. And I would tell the boss, it's going to take me 3 days. So I would get it done. 3 days is faster than the 5 he expected. And I would head to the pub. Or I'd work on some other stuff that I wanted to do. Do you want me to share? On my Meetup.
I've shared the link to the Meetup.
Awesome. Yeah, sign up there. The Agent Factory, building AI teams from the CLI. That's the next thing here, right? So we're talking about teams. We're talking about swarms. I'm not going to do swarms. I'm going to just do a hierarchical agent implementation. Ooh, that sounds fancy. But there's no magic there either. Everything you saw, what I did now, I'm going to take that. We're going to build the next level of abstraction of how this works. And you definitely want to come to this because I'm going to do a 5-hour workshop. It's going to be a paid workshop. People who are on here like Matrix and whatnot, he's heard me say this since January. But I'm playing because the reason I haven't done it, it's like, oh, that's a new thing. I have to build all that into the workshop. Or they take the models and whatnot to the next level. And it's like, oh, glad I didn't do the workshop. So come next week, take a gander, and then you can see what I'm going to start talking about in workshops. And 2026 is going to be, this was the year of agents, and it's come true. We didn't know we were going to be here. In 2023, when we were looking at all this stuff, it was before OpenAI dropped their whole function calling concepts. We didn't know we were going to get that in 23. We didn't know we were going to be where we are today. So where we're going to be in 2026 is going to be off the charts, in my opinion. And even if everything stopped today, if all the regulations and all the regulators say no more AI, it's too dangerous, what we have today in terms of AI models is enough to get us through 2050 to build amazing, amazing stuff. But you have to learn how to do it. And you can't just sit there and think about it. And you can't debate it. You can't go, well, I think we should do, governance this way. Policy stuff, what Chen was saying, that's great. But if you're going to think of, this isn't going to be fast enough, well, you got to sit down and build it, check it out. And the speed at which you can build these things, we're in an age of disposable software. I build stuff and I throw it away. Or I'll use it and say, hey, this is good, but I really want to make it better. Right? It's not the sunk cost factor. It's not like, oh, I just built this for 2 weeks. I'm not changing it. I'm not going to throw it out. Well, with AI, you can. It's crazy. All right. I'm done.
Oh, all right.
Well,
excellent. Well, thank you.
PowerShell. I'm not sure exactly. So what I think you're asking, yes, it's all built in PowerShell. PSAISuite. I only build shit in PowerShell. Well, that's not true. I typically only publish on stuff in PowerShell. So PSAISuite I did. But to be honest, when I was looking at it, so sorry, Yap, I'm going to go a little longer. When I built PSAISuite, because I come from a developer background for decades, I'm very much into design patterns. So when I looked at it, my mindset said, oh, that's a strategy pattern, right? So if I can build a strategy pattern for one thing that can call multiple different providers that are a little different, I can build a really cool concept. So when I built the first two of them, Anthropic and OpenAI, when I started building it for things like XAI and whatnot, I basically took my code, described it as a strategy pattern to AI, took my code and then pointed it at the documentation for XAI, and it built it out for me. Done. Then I said, oh, let's do GROQ. Let's do perplexity. Let's do this. And it just knocked it out. So including documentation. But that's so, you know, that's where we need to get mindset wise. Long live vibe coding for real coders. Yeah. And, you know, I'm going to go a little longer. People keep throwing out stuff. Vibe coding, unfortunately, just like the, you know, AI is hyped like it's going to be the panacea for everybody, or it's going to be the Terminator. It's not going to be either one. It's going to take jobs, no doubt about it. But vibe coding, people think vibe coding is like, oh, you're just being irresponsible and you're just saying this. When I vibe coded from day one, when Karpathy, he was the first one to coin that about a year ago and said, hey, look at what I did. And it's like vibe coding. I start with a GitHub repo and I tell the model, build a test, write the code. When it passes, check it in. And I just iterate, right? So I'm vibe coding, but I have a track of what's going on all checked into GitHub, right? So I can back out at any point. I have tests to prove that the code works. And if I don't like something, I can go, hey, go change that code. It's not right. And then either the tests work or they break. And then the model says, well, do you want me to fix the code or do you want me to fix the tests? And I'll say, what's your recommendation? Just like I'm talking to a seasoned developer. What's your recommendation? Do both. I don't care. Make it work. And I'm not talking about stuff just for my own personal use. So vibe coding is a bullshit concept that people have said, well, it's bullshit how people have given a definition to it, like it's irresponsible. No, it's not. Not in the right hands. So yeah, it's up to us to really figure out how to use this correctly, I think. And I could be wrong. I think I'm done again.
Okay, unless something pops up in the chat, I would like to thank you for not just presenting tonight, but also for jumping up the moment you saw that we were rebooting our user group. So thank you for joining us for the first one.
You're welcome. Thanks for saying, okay, yeah, well, you can come on in. Awesome.
Excellent. And yeah, thanks for joining everyone. We will have more virtual sessions coming up. We have an unannounced one for next month. We're still working out the exact date, but it will be on X, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, the DuPSUG website, so you can keep track of us there. I'll most likely be in Doug's session next week as well, and I hope to see you all in person at the end of the month. So nice. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.